Mm-hmm. I have to leave at 7:30. I'm not gonna have a problem. I made him set me up a Zoom just in case, but it's not gonna be an issue.
No, this should go quick. Yeah.
6:45.
Yeah. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order for the City of Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. First off tonight, we have the City Council oath of office for the newly elected City Council members. We'll do those individually. We'll start with Audrey and work this way.
Audrey, is everyone here you were expecting? Is everyone here for you? Do you need to wait? Are you good? Do you have
No,
expecting?
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, no, everybody's here.
Okay,
Oh, I
just
did.
wanna make sure.
Thank you for asking.
Yep.
I'm here, I'll wait for a month.
Don't face back here? Okay. Oh, sorry, Ann. Remember we talked about
I'm
earlier,
really not
Ann?
important.
We talked about.
Sorry,
photos
is that what you
before,
wanted?
Yeah. I, Audrey Barton,
Solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Okay.
I state your name,
I, Christopher Karn,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United
and
States
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah.
and that I will discharge the duties
I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity. Thank you.
I state your name,
Lance Wadman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office with fidelity.
of my office with fidelity.
Smile. It's for posterity and the city Facebook page.
Okay, we're breaking them in easy, so if you want to hold tight, this should be a quick agenda unless Mark decides to soapbox this evening. Okay, there's no sewer issues, Michael said. Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Present tonight, I have Councilwoman Barton, Councilman McComber, Councilman Karn, Councilman Wilden, and Councilman Wadman. So we do have a quorum tonight. I've asked Councilman Wilden to lead us in our invocation and Councilman McComber to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this day, and we're especially grateful to be gathered here this evening as elected officials to represent the residents of this great city. And we ask Thee to bless us not only tonight, but over the next year, that we'll be able to make good decisions that will continue to benefit all that live here. And we ask Thee to bless our first responders and those who serve in the military. And these things we say in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will everyone please rise and join me in repeating the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Okay, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. Please be respectful in your comments. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for public input? Seeing none, I will close the public input. Reports from the council. Anything from the council this evening?
It's a new year.
It's a new year. Okay. Anything from administration? No? Okay. Consent items. I will entertain a motion on the consent items.
So made.
I have a first from Councilman McComber,
Second.
second from Councilman Wilden. Any further discussion? Councilman Wadman? Carn?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Barton?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have a work session on the mixed waterfront design standards draft review, city initiated.
I'll introduce this and then Austin will take over. So we, planning staff have been working on this for about 6 months. We've worked with an architecture firm, VCBO, and Whitney Ward is the principal architect. She's here to represent them in case there are any questions that we can't answer. We did need the services of an architect on this. We're excited about it and we're looking forward to presenting it to you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't know, Whitney, if you want to come up here and just take a seat in case they have questions or whatever, but, all right, so this is the document we put together. I'm just going to start off here. So we put together a mixed waterfront vision statement here to kind of encapsulate what we're trying to get after with this document here. So it says Saratoga Springs envisions a vibrant destination in the mixed waterfront areas. Development in this zone will provide a mix of uses with commercial development at the ground level and recreation and outdoor-oriented uses at the waterfront. There will also be opportunities to provide diverse housing options within this district. So that's the objective. That's what we're trying to get after here. But this document is really more architecturally oriented, and that's why we got some help here. So going on. A couple of things. The mixed waterfront, you think about it, Utah Lake probably comes to mind first, but it's also along the Jordan River. So we've designed this to incorporate both of those waterfront areas. And so the waterfront area is the area adjacent to the Utah Lake Shoreline Trail and the Jordan River Trail. Within this area and within this zone, one of the emphases is to connect to those areas. So, have trail connections, pedestrian connections to the waterfront. We want to get people to the water, and that's was one of the main things. A vibrant, walkable commercial edge. Also, we wanted to draw people to this area. So we want people to come for the waterfront, but also to come for a commercial part of it as well. And so part of our intent here is to have a walkable commercial edge at the ground level that faces the road, that parallels the waterfront, and is accessible to open space facing the water's edge. So just to pause for a second. So I'm going to go through this document. I'm just kind of going through it from beginning to end. If you guys want to pause me at any moment, you have questions or you want to make a statement, feel free to let me know.
I appreciate you not reading it all to me, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit the highlights, so yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to read it, it's on.
It's all online. Yeah.
Are there any areas where our mixed waterfront and our gateway overlay overlap?
So in the south part of town, I'll show you this map. So in the future, Pelican Point would be both a gateway and a mixed waterfront area.
So will they conflict?
I don't believe so. I think they complement each other in many ways. It really, the mixed waterfront would be almost in addition to the gateway.
Okay, so you
That's
gotta
the way-
you have to meet gateway overlay and mixed waterfront.
Over here, we have it on the river. Right there.
River's Edge too, yeah. So there's already a project that is kind of, yeah,
But they came in before these new standards.
they did, yeah.
Well, we had the waterfront. This is not the design standard.
Right, this is a change.
But they have the real commercial on the bottom, the residential,
Right,
on top, which they
right.
met, right?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, a lot of what they've done with the trails and the connections and incorporating the waterfront into the design, that's what we're after, and they did do a lot of that. The architecture on that building is a little bit different than what you'll see in this document.
It
what
is,
we're trying to aim for, so.
Okay.
So let's see here. Basically, some of the important characteristics are we want to include neighborhood services, social gathering spaces, attractive landscaping, convenient public access to lakeshore areas, and a sense of personal, while maintaining a sense of personal safety and well-maintained housing and attractive parks. On this slide here, at the bottom here, I wish we could zoom in on that, or maybe we can.
Probably can. Yeah.
That image kind of gives you a good, it's a good visual of what we're saying in all these words in this document. Sometimes I think it's easier, I'm a more visual person, so when I see an image like this, it's easier for me to understand. So the dark blue line that you see there in the middle is the waterfront street right-of-way, so that would be a road running through the development. Then the kind of medium blue that sandwiches that dark blue is the required retail areas. So we would want to have like a retail space along that road there, on the main road. And then as you get closer, so on the bottom of the screen there, that's the waterfront. So we would have, we envision some kind of a boardwalk, and also you'd have, obviously the lake shoreline, and then the riparian setback, which is kind of the area that we have to preserve along the waterfronts. And then up on the top of the image there, that lighter blue or teal, whatever that color is, those are the allowed uses. So that would be, typically you'd then have, more probably have housing or whatever in those areas. But the idea is we want to focus the commercial along a main artery and then have connections to the waterfront on the other side of that main artery. Can we zoom back out again? So one of the things, and I don't know if we want to talk about it tonight or maybe just have it be something that we want to think about. But you can kind of see here in the middle of the screen, and maybe we can zoom in on that, is we've kind of shown what the waterfront would look like. Now this area is adjacent to the North Marina. And so we want to plan, because that's what planners do. And so we want to make sure that the marina is that it integrates well with the mixed waterfront area. I mean, so basically why I wanted to show it to the council is because we need some direction. Do we want to have it, the marina completely separated from this zone? Do we want to try to integrate them? And if so, in what way does the council see us doing that?
I personally would like to see the marina integrated into these two adjacent mixed waterfront zones.
Okay.
I'd like to see those zones support the marina use.
If I could, one of the concerns that I think we probably need to consider is that if we're integrating it, that's one thing, but if the developer is trying to count that open space for their open space requirements, it's probably not what we're looking for. So integrating it, I completely understand, but we want to make sure that the policy is very clearly set by the council as to whether or not they can then claim, hey, the city has a trail along the river, or the city's already built open space
Don't
here.
want that.
Yeah, so we need to be very cautious about the integration and how that works. Their application probably needs to stand on its own without counting city property for any of its requirements. The other thing that, and it's not addressed in this, and appreciate Austin and what the planning team is working on, we probably need to tweak some of the other waterfront policies as well as we're adopting this and as we're integrating this in when it's finally ready, so that we can address some of the concerns that happened with some of our last mixed waterfront developments, so that those issues are resolved prior to us having to kind of work through it during the development process. So those are some changes that we'd also be wanting to bring back along with this as we look at those code amendments and things of that nature.
So not integrated, but complement
complementary.
And I wouldn't want our marina to be part of the mixed waterfront zone because we're not gonna be meeting the requirements. We won't have the commercial that's
Right.
necessary and
Right.
we're not gonna be meeting the, maybe even some of the design standards. And so I really would like to just see it be, we have that civic zone now, just leave it there, and then it's not included in the waterfront, because obviously it's very waterfront friendly. We were probably gonna have like a little restaurant there, maybe canoe rental, kayaks, paddle boards, et cetera. But I don't want that, because it's a recreation more than this mixed waterfront. That's for me. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, well, thank you for the feedback on that, yeah.
No, I agree with you.
Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea. We kind of drew what a potential road alignment on there, but it's all just kind of theoretical at this point. We're not saying that's for sure where a road alignment will go or anything like that, but obviously, we do want to drive people to the waterfront, and so, you know, if they can naturally go to the marina from that area, that would be probably a good thing. Let's see, moving on to the next slide here. So we've had these cross sections put together. These are street cross sections. There's two different configurations you'll see here. One is kind of a more standard 69-foot right-of-way. You'll see if we can scroll down just a tiny bit, you can see like there's parking that kind of is off to the side of the main thoroughfare. On the second slide here, we have what is alternative configuration. We do need to update this image so it is kind of showing pavers there. We actually don't probably want pavers. We're not envisioning that. That would be a lot of maintenance and stuff. So that image does need to be updated. But this image is different. The way it differs from the other one is this one kind of has curb and gutter, whereas this one is flatter. And so someone could naturally cross. It'd make it more pedestrian friendly.
It doesn't have on-street parking.
It does have on-street parking. It's integrated. It's shown in like that dark gray in the gray box there, a separate colored paver. So those
Dark brown.
Dark brown.
or the dark brown. Sorry, yeah, I meant the dark brown. Yeah. Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah. I apologize.
that's okay.
Yeah, so, but the idea is, you know, like someone, let's say someone with a stroller or something, they could just roll it right across. They don't have to worry about hitting the curb or whatever. It creates a more pedestrian flowing environment. And so those are the street cross sections that we've kind of figured would work well in the mixed waterfront zone.
Did you take into consideration on those pedestrian ones where you're putting your cement flower boxes and stuff that protects people at crosswalks? And even though you can still cross anywhere, just to create a visual effect, we just need to have a standard in there that helps drivers know that we're coming up on pretty much a more common cross section, even though it can be crossed. This will be a 15 mile an hour road. We need to make sure that's in the code, that this is a very low speed because people can be crossing at any time. But when you have those main sections, I mean, Lehigh, you know, people know I love Lehigh just immensely if you've ever come to these meetings, but they've done a decent job with their main street, with their boxes, with the rocks, right? It definitely slows you down. They're down the middle. You know that this is where people potentially will cross, where people won't. So just make sure that with that one, because it will be the first time we've done that.
Yeah.
Outside of a private streets, like the Saratoga Springs development has this kind of feel. But it'll be the first time in our public space that we do have that. So.
Okay. Yeah, we probably need to beef up our document a little bit to integrate that, but I mean,
They
the
just don't want-
crossings.
This is cheap. So every developer is gonna move to this. Not the developers are gonna like, oh, I don't have to do curb, I don't have to do gutter, I mean, we just reduced their cost immensely. So we just need to make sure that some of those costs are built into the structures around it to make sure that it's very pedestrian friendly and not just developer friendly. So.
Okay, all right. Good feedback. And I'm taking notes of this as we go through this. Okay, so now we're getting in kind of the meat of it here. So these are the building design standards. One of the main focuses that we wanted to have on this project was, we wanted the buildings to be unique. We wanted them to feel like you're in a waterfront area. And so a lot of these architectural elements, we looked at examples of other waterfront communities, notable waterfront communities around the country. And we kind of thought, well, what is it that makes something waterfront, And so that's really what we've strived for here. One of the things here, so on buildings, we do want them to have like 3 distinct elements: a base, middle, and a cap. So kind of think of like a wedding cake. You have the base, you have the middle part, and then you have the topper on the top. That's kind of what we envisioned the buildings to look like. So you'd have the base would be kind of the ground level where the people are interacting. You're going to have lots of visibility. You're going to have 40% transparency on that base floor. Let me just go to the image here so you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about when I talk about the 3 different elements. And then you can see how the top of the building, the cap of the building is different, and then how each level of the building is distinguished from one another. So you can tell that, the middle is the middle, the top is the top, and the bottom is the bottom, and there's a clear distinction between each one. You'll notice that there's a lot of variation going on in the building here. So articulation of the building going both vertically and horizontally on the building, using things like columns, windows that are indented, capstones and things like that. Those are some of the elements to kind of help break it up, give it some variety, and then also keep it unique.
Did I miss it? Is it a 360 requirement? Or just the facing of the waterfront? Do we require decent on the back part where, because there's the water side, and then there's the part that everyone's.
Four-sided architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we still have, this would still be bound by our standard city code, which does say we have to have 4-sided architecture.
Less on the back side than it is in the front side.
Yeah.
Right, we haven't addressed that, but we certainly can.
Because
We
really
need
on this
to.
situation, you have all coming, so the land side needs to look nice, because that's everyone coming in. It can't look like the back of Smith's. I'm not trying to pick on Smith. Smith did a nice job, but it's much simpler in the back, right?
Right.
But then you have the waterfront, which needs to look good because people walking on the boardwalk and everything, you want that. They're naturally gonna make that the nicer side, and they're gonna try and cut costs on the back side. But to get this density, to have all these condos above commercial, this is the whole benefit to the developer, right? In the waterfront, they need to really have the 4-sided architecture.
Agreed.
Same standard as the front.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we can definitely add some additional
They're
language
just
in
need to be
here.
very clear, so they
Yeah.
don't come and say, it wasn't clear to us.
Yeah.
At this point, we haven't made it that clear, so we can definitely add.
Yeah, and,
So-
when we were creating this document, we've obviously envisioned at least 2 distinct sites, so like streetscape, where people are walking, you have the shop fronts, but then as they're walking along the waterfront, that's gonna be a separate, unique, and also deservedly needs to have as much attention, just
One
as,
from the sides, 'cause
you know,
you're walking from the street to
yeah.
the boardwalk.
Right.
So really, all 4 sides need it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that gets you kind of the building base.
You'll want to upgrade your images too, because if you even look at your images, you have like awnings and all these things in that one side, and then look at your side of the building.
That's a great point, thank you. Yeah, we've been updating these images several times already, so,
So this will give you an opportunity.
yeah, that'll be good. Okay. So on the next image here, you can see how it's highlighted the transitions between the different levels, so the articulation between the different levels, and you can see those dark lines there. This image here is emphasizing the arcades and colonnades. So, a waterfront community that you can think of that has arcades and colonnades, not to say that we're gonna do that kind of architecture, but think New Orleans, the old town, New Orleans, when you're walking down and they have those pillars and, the little arcades there that you can kind of walk, you can dine out there. It kind of creates that sense of space for people to be in that area. So this is kind of a more modern take on that, I guess you could kind of say. Then we have the upper floors. This image is showing that we have a max 30% transparent upper for the upper floors. Let's see here. And I'm just gonna really hitting highlights here, so if you want me to stop, let
Do
me
you
know.
want to, can we talk about the roofs?
Yeah,
Yeah, so this proposal does allow for flat roofs with the requirement that at least 25% cannot be a flat roof. So we do want your feedback on that as well. So what you're seeing in this image here is one way to accomplish that. There could obviously be multiple ways to accomplish that.
How much percentage again did you say?
25%
Cannot be or can be?
has to be a pitch, so,
Only
so
25%, so 75%
can be flat. That's what we have proposed.
75% flat.
Why do we,
Yeah, what, I was gonna ask the same question.
what's driving that number?
Why so much?
Architecturally, why take that approach?
yeah, maybe if Whitney could,
There are a number of reasons why.
why you may want to allow for the flexibility of flat roofs. Some might be functionality. The other thing that we looked at when we were looking at the architecture that influenced this was a lot of sort of, as Austin was saying, Mediterranean and waterfront architecture. And variation in roof lines is something that also helps create a more diverse and visually interesting streetscape. And so we wanted to provide for that variation. This image that you can see has a domed roof, it has a pitched roof, it has a flat roof. We talked about highlighting corners by putting pitched roofs in those corner elements in perhaps a tower. And so we wanted to allow for some architectural freedom and diversity within the roofscape.
Your image is 25% flat roof. You're recommending 75%. And so what it would look like would be all flat with that little angle.
So,
Not gonna be
and
all-
we can change the language, absolutely, if you want more pitched
Your image
roof.
doesn't represent the code. It's
No,
saying
and I agree, they're gonna take the path of least resistance and cost. But I'm also wondering if we give flexibility for more flat roof if the flat roof has a use.
like a garden courtyard.
Right.
That's a great suggestion to give it functionality or to look at, and it's written in here, not just the roof pitch, but also the detailing, the cornice details, how the roof is supported, things like that, that can help provide that
Because
visual
I was right
interest
on
as
with-
well.
I was thinking 25% flat roof. They can have up to half if the other 20.
If it has a use.
So
Yeah.
25% purely flat, 25% where they could have like a garden courtyard or gazebo, lighting, people can go up there. Because what I was gonna comment on the roof is that I also think we need to make sure that we don't have European pitched roofs, the 45%. I do wanna keep it flatter because the homes behind, you don't want them to create this big wall. If you have super huge pitched roofs.
So maintain a
then it's
lower
blocking
slope.
that view corridors
Yep.
from all the homes. And so
When I see the Mediterranean, I can see it in my head, what you're going for, like, through Greece and stuff, you got all those waterfront homes with the flat roofs.
but they all have gardens on them, right?
Yeah,
That's where-
they have a use, a lot of them have a use, yeah.
So that's where, the rest of the council, but I'd say up to 50% max flat roof, but 25% has to be usable. I was going the same line.
Just a point of clarification. I kind of see where you're going with this, but from a clarification standpoint, what if they wanted to have like a restaurant terrace? Could they go more than 50% if it's a restaurant terrace?
Well, but the restaurant terrace, they're not gonna wanna have the whole thing be open anyway. They're gonna have it be enclosed and then just the porch out in front. So I think it could still have that roof,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'd wanna see it more than 50%.
Yeah, and so that would be the only consideration. I mean, let's say that it was just gonna maybe be public meeting space or, just seating or something like that.
But if it's a
Would there
use-
be exceptions that you would be willing to consider or anything like?
I would.
We do have.
I wouldn't wanna go be a 50 for me personally, but I'm one of 5.
We do, and I would like to take just a minute to point out some of the other language specific to roofs. So we do say 25% of the length of the facade should be expressed in a pitched roof, 312 or greater. But then we also say pitched facade walls. So meaning that the wall has a pitch, but the roof behind it is flat, so you still get a roof variation change. And that says may be used to account up to 40% of the required pitched roof element. So what's that saying? Sorry, stumbling a little bit. I've had a cold, so I apologize. So what that is saying here specifically as basically the wall element would be pitched, not necessarily every part of the roof. And so that, I think we could incorporate a combination of those things, if that's something that you would prefer.
Yeah, and then I would like to not have it 312 or greater than having a max, so that you don't get the super 45-degree angle European. There's a place for that, but not on our wall.
Okay, so
What percentage would we say is like a,
I think we would probably max it, and we'll look at a couple of different diagrams, but we may want to max it out at 612, to your point, yeah.
50%. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, exactly.
And that would be a good maximum. The 312 we do have in other parts of our code as a minimum. Flatter than that does get pretty shallow.
Yeah, no, and I have no problem with the facades. I mean, it's, the facades, it's the visual appeal. I don't care if behind there they have their air conditioning units hidden and all that, and it's all flat behind. It's just the visual appearance.
yeah, yeah. And I think we've kind of allowed for that so that they can have the term escapes my mind.
I call it the Disney effect, because Disney's all fake.
But it's like that it's that fake part.
That parapet,
The
yeah.
parapet, that's the word I was looking for.
That's a good way to.
And we can play with these numbers and bring this back to you. Let me recap what I think I heard. I think I heard a maximum of 25% flat. Is that what I heard?
Pure flat with no use.
Okay, with no use.
50% if
But-
25% is being used.
So
Okay.
25 pure
So-
flat, no use, additional
okay.
25 if used.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
50% total flat, right?
And then maybe you put into, to Mark's point, if they have a restaurant or something.
Additional public use.
And even
there
then,
might
you
be
might have like it's glassed in, but then it's flat, so it's flat and flat. We can maybe, like a variance, like this
I almost
allowed
want, I
variance.
want to encourage rooftop use
Yeah.
over there.
So like I was thinking like a restaurant, because sometimes they'll have glass, but it'll be flat above.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're never gonna see someone want the whole roof used, because like 6 months out of the year, it's not gonna be
Yeah.
usable.
Yeah.
Unless they wanna shovel snow and people sit outside in the cold, you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm not going there.
I think it's gonna be 50%.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, and another part to focus in here on the building top too is that longer buildings are gonna be required to have 2 or more distinct roof details. So if you're over 60 feet in length, you're gonna have to have additional.
Miss, no?
No, Smith's is about 100, right, over 100, 100.
60 is like a Home Depot,
So-
Hobby Lobby?
Hobby Lobby,
That's probably
Right, I
there.
think so, yeah, right.
roughly. I think
Yeah.
Hobby Lobby was like 75 maybe. Okay, that's good. I
Yeah.
like that.
Okay.
Sorry, I always have to like picture in my mind what those might look like.
Yeah, it's
And
good to have like
Why
an.
we wanted to have pictures for you for the discussion. So obviously, as you're saying, this image is more than 25%. Even just this piece here is more than 25%.
Yeah.
So,
So with the new, what we just outlined, let's make the images match the, and even put like a little, with the trees, and
okay.
Stick figures.
that would be a cool thing for them to see, is like, we're encouraging you to have like a garden up
I
there.
love a good rooftop garden. I'll add that all day.
Well, and then to Wilden's point, you know, then they can do like lighting, they can do heating element, like heating structures and stuff like that to, you know, fire pits, things like
You
that.
could have a heated roof deck, right? That,
Make
so you don't have to shovel the snow. Yeah, okay.
Fake pitch could act as your shielding for your other stuff too.
That's the cool point.
Yeah.
Your air conditioning units. and
Yeah.
utilities.
Do you have a max on the sort of fake pitch?
612, wasn't it?
No,
How much
I
can they
mean
do?
percentage on the
Oh.
facade. Is that a concern at all, or is it?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be
more-
100%, because then you would just end up with all these little weird things around the front. I think it would have to
Okay.
be, for me, as long as visually, any angle seeing from the ground that you can't see that it's fake, because Disney, it looks like it's a full building, right? I mean, but everyone knows when you're on Main Street on Disney, it literally is just the very front, and there are big cement boxes behind it.
And I think we may want to look at this in 2 parts. One is the percentage of the front facade that expresses a pitch versus the percentage of the total roof area as seen from above.
So the expert, let them give you the percentages.
We'll look at that.
Okay.
I think she's
That-
hearing our vision.
That sounds
Yeah.
great. That was just, we just wanted more direction
Yeah.
on that, so that's great.
We can fine tune it. Okay, so that, I think that covers mostly the roof elements. We do have building elements that we've focused in on. So some of the following the materials that are encouraged in this area are concrete poured in place or precast, concrete with light-colored aggregate, brick masonry, stone veneer, composite concrete siding, and metal as detail elements. That's kind of the material palette that we've envisioned in this area. The idea is we want durable building materials that, help distinguish these buildings and make it a unique area, and add texture and color and those types of elements to the building. Brick and stone are great examples of that. Also, we're going to avoid excessive variety of, we want to avoid too much excess, so not an excess variety of facade materials. So, it's good to have those elements, but we don't want to overdo it either. Let's see, glass is required to have a minimum visible light transmittance of 65%. So you can't just create something that's completely has no visibility, right?
Like we have in our city all over the place.
Yeah. So we're gonna try and avoid that. Another key part of this is maybe the elements that we do not want to permit. So some of those elements that we don't want in the mixed waterfront zone are boxy and monotonous facades, weak or token expressions of structure, meaning inconsistent statements of structure. We don't want to see flush building surfaces, like extensive, just flat flush surfaces, large featureless building surfaces, or highly reflective surfaces.
So I guess a question that I would just pose to the council is what we've experienced as we've been working on our city hall design. Some of these types of concepts have come up and we found them to be a little bit challenging. So as we consider these types of things, you may want to consider, what restricting, say, reflective surfaces and other things would look like in this particular zone, but also does that then carry over to other zones of the community? Or would it just be exclusive to this zone? So just thoughts to consider.
Yeah. Okay. Our next section that we have here is, so that's kind of the overall architectural theme of the area, but then in the next section, we kind of zero in on multifamily standards.
I thought this was good.
So the idea is we want to make sure, if it's just an all commercial building, then that might be a little bit different than if we had something that has multifamily, right? So some of the key highlights here is multifamily buildings shall include recessed entries or covered porches. The design shall also include balconies, balustrades, staircases, and stoops. The building design shall not include long expanses of blank walls or windowless elevations. And then if they're going to have accessory structures, those accessory structures shall be designed to complement and harmonize with the buildings.
Makes sense.
Let's see. And then we do talk about massing criteria, roof criteria. So pitched roofs are something that we would envision being a requirement for the multifamily product. Use of consistent pitch roof forms throughout the entire complex create both horizontal and vertical roof variations with roof breaks. So it's not just one big, huge roof, but we'll have variation throughout it. And then complement the main body roof forms with smaller roof planes and elements. Other key focuses here in the multifamily are recessed entries and covered porch areas. So for a recessed entry, you would have a 20-foot, the requirement would be a minimum of 20 square feet with a depth of 4 feet and a height above grade of 18 inches being preferred. Decks, we do want decks to be a part of this. So in some of our research that we were doing, we're kind of, thinking that, decks really do kind of give that waterfront feel. And so that is a requirement. However, the deck should not appear as if they have been tacked on and they're just an afterthought. It's to be well integrated into the design. And then we talk about the articulation of the facade, just breaking it up. Windows, large horizontal window openings divided by mullions into a group of series of vertically oriented windows. There's some more architectural language here that, unless you want to go into that, I won't get into.
I think this section was really well done.
Thank you. And then we have a section that really focuses in on the accessory structures that I kind of mentioned earlier. And then after this, we have, let's see, where is it? Let me make sure. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we have this section here that talks about landscaping and streetscaping. So obviously, we want the landscaping to be done. We want it to be integrated. Some of the ideas are we want the landscaping to be used to soften the parcel perimeters. So the perimeters of the property should have plantings, kind of soften that up. We do envision having plant containers and raised planters at building entrances to kind of create a nice entry into the buildings. Sheltered outdoor areas, so using plants to kind of create a sheltered outdoor area. So providing shade or, that type of thing, but using natural plantings to do that.
On sidewalk dining,
Yeah, so that's actually.
like a canopy, like, okay, good.
Yeah, so we emphasize kind of a wider sidewalk along that right-of-way
then
to
they can have
provide
covered
outdoor
on
dining.
areas.
And then you could have the dining kind of like in a covered, it would come out and then you'd have like the pillars and it would be kind of back, but still.
True boardwalk kind of feel good.
Yeah. An interesting element that we put in is to have soldier rows of trees to define the internal streets. So just going along the main street there.
Same tree.
Kind of creating that feel along, and also along the promenades, that same type of planting. One of the things here also is hanging planters from pedestrian light fixtures. That could also help, give a little life to the area. And then, one of the things we want to do in this area is create a unique feel to it. And so one of the ways to do that is to have the lighting, the seating, the trash receptacles, maybe the tree grates and the bike racks, all of those things kind of uniformly integrated. So picture the same color, maybe having a logo or something, a theme for that area that would be on each of those elements. Again, to kind of create a sense of place for the waterfront.
Do we have in the code, that's one of my notes I hear, is the lighting, the street lights. We have, public streets, we have pretty strict rules because we want to have consistency. I think that we need to be a little bit more flexible as a council and to have, so we don't have what we would have in the Smith's parking area or in this, these bigger, more big bright lights, I'm even like Gaslight District, I'm even thinking you can even have along the boardwalk, you could have even like the flame ones, the fake flame ones or just, so the lighting is a little bit unique to the area, because if you have big bright lights, you just defeated the whole purpose of being waterfront, because all you're gonna see is light. You won't even see the lake. Mosquitoes. And mosquitoes will all come, they'll definitely need to be yellow, like a yellow or light. But, so if we can just make sure that, and then even if we need to change our code, because on our lighting standard, we need to reference the waterfront, because we have a certain candles requirement, it might be less, and so we just need to be prepared to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to have big, powerful lights, right, on the, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I like the idea of like the grates around the trees, and it just creates that, Battery Park, New York kind of feel, that really beautiful part of the cities when you have that connected to the water there. But then I would like to see the Saratoga Springs logo still integrated. I don't really want to necessarily see that they're using their logo the development, but I would rather see like the Saratoga Springs logo in the grading and the benches, because then that reminds people that they are in the city of Saratoga Springs. Because we require that in other parts. Like if you put a bench, you have to have the Saratoga Springs logo.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. So do we want, I guess one of the questions maybe that I have is, do we want the light poles to be the same as throughout the entire city, or do we want to have a unique light pole for the waterfront zone, or?
My suggestion would be to make it unique to the waterfront zone.
I think it's a different,
needs to
totally different
be-
type of zone.
Because it's like lower, because you're gonna have lower candles, and they'll be more frequently required because of the lack of the light, and so just for safety reasons, I mean, you're nodding crazy because you know that there are certain standards out there that you're gonna be able to pull in and just have that be.
It's a sort of that vehicular versus pedestrian standard, and we want to pull in the pedestrians.
Yeah, like I think of the KT Trail in Dallas.
Yep.
Like, there's a perfect example, right? Because it's very minimal lighting, but it is so safe. You could be running at 11 o'clock at night and feel safe because there's just enough lighting without it being over the top. And they have a lot more vegetation than we'll ever have, right? That would make people feel uncomfortable.
Perfect.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's see here, let me just get to the right page, okay. So another element of this is the Utah Lake Shoreline Trail and the Jordan River Trail standards. So what we have here is we have a section where we talk about a promenade. So a big, open, pedestrian-oriented area along the waterfront, broken into two parts. So the part that's closer to the water is maybe more focused on the waterfront activities, but then the second part would be maybe more focused on biking, walking, or gathering spaces. And so those are kind of the two elements that would be part of the promenade. Also, maybe that could be an area where we could have public art, if that's something we're interested in. That would be it'd create an interesting place to walk, and you could look at the artwork and things like that. Let's see here.
On these
The-
trails you're talking about, do we have dedicated bike lanes through those, or are they just mixed use?
They're mixed use. They're just our standard trail, which we don't have any that have a dedicated bike lane. Is that something that you want us to look at?
Not if we don't have it in other places. I don't want to call it out and just.
Because then you're
one-
like bike lane,
Yeah, bike lane, no bike, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
That would freak people out. I think we have some standards with some signs, like in different places where I've even seen them where it says this is a shared,
Right. They're multi-use,
Yeah.
like you mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. Some of the other requirements for the promenade would be that it has to be at least 30 feet wide, located near the water's edge whenever possible. Views of the water shall be maximized whenever possible. There shall be guardrails along areas that, might have a drop-off or something like that. There shall be seating elements, including such as benches, seat walls, or stairs. There should also be furnishings such as benches and waste receptacles. And then,
So in the rest of our code, do we have in seat walls where you have to have the little bumper to make sure that they can't skateboard it? Because I don't think we allow seat walls in the other zones. Maybe we do, but we need to make sure it's clear that they need to put the little knob so that you don't have the skateboarders doing the,
Wax it.
wow, that's the word, thank you. I could not think of
Yeah.
the word, thank you.
Okay, we can add that.
Yeah, because I like the wall idea. It makes it feel more natural. It's more like encompassing to the lake. It's not so artificial.
okay. And then integrating pedestrian lighting into the design of the promenade. So, that probably goes along with what we were, I guess, some of
That's
your
sort of what we're
comments.
leading to, yeah, that's-
So we really want that pedestrian lighting rather than, car or vehicular lighting. That is pretty much wraps up our document, so,
Councilman Wilden has a comment.
I had one item, at least in our packet, my screen just went blank. It was on page 25 where we had like a list of different zones and what were permitted, and the one thing we're putting in mixed waterfront. Do you have that?
Yep.
let's see, probably this table here? Is that what
Yeah,
you're-
right down there. I mean, the one thing you're adding in there is transit-oriented development. I know why you're doing that, but I'm really uncomfortable with specifically identifying that because the state is going to control it. They're already controlling it. They're going to control it more. And next thing we know, hey, a developer come in, it's transit oriented. UDOT requires 50,000 apartment buildings. You got to put it here. So I know what we're trying to do, but I would prefer it not be referenced in that so we don't get tied into state code and UDOT standards.
I think that's.
Not UDOT, UTA.
And I like this walkable. I don't want to see them try and push tracks through here because they're trying to take it across the top of Utah Lake Freeway.
Because I guarantee as soon as we identify that, the state, Mark, every year it seems like they're adding new things. I've talked to her, not specifically about this here, but our counterparts in Springville and UTA is just pushing all this stuff. The state's agreeing to it. Huge amounts of density, probably more than we'd ever want here. So I'd prefer we don't specifically identify this to keep it out of the state and so we can control the density. I think we could use language to say, hey, make it like, I don't know, I'm not gonna make up something.
Pedestrian friendly.
Pedestrian friendly that perhaps a bus would come down.
But just
here.
don't use the state's TOD.
We don't want
Yeah.
tracks
Using their
running
terms.
down this.
Okay. Yeah, so that part, that table, we can definitely do that, but it would have to be a code amendment because that's actually in the code, so, but we can come back with that. Because we're gonna do some other code tweaks, so we can throw that in with the other ones.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Good catch.
He's been
All
waiting
right.
for 30 minutes to talk about that.
I've had it on this page for a long time.
Liaison to the legislature, so that's great.
They just steamroll us. so.
Any other questions from the council on this?
No, well done. Well
Make some
done.
changes and bring it back?
Thank you, yeah, we got some good feedback. We'll come back with some more.
We've had a lot of this in the past. This was a big one. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Mark, administrative updates?
Yeah.
Owen?
Mayor and council, I think we're going to take a mulligan. And since we went a little bit longer probably in this work session, we'll postpone this until the retreat and we'll just spend some time
Offsite.
at the offsite discussing the items that we had queued up for this evening. So if you're okay with that,
As long as you make sure we have an hour-long discussion on gravity-fed sewer lines.
it would be my pleasure.
That was 2 years ago, right?
Okay.
Want a demonstration of that?
No.
Need for closed session?
No.
Nope. Okay. Meeting is adjourned.
There's a party next door.